Okay, great. So, in the meanwhile, while we wait that a few more people join, let me explain how this is going to work. So basically, we're using this new feature that Discord now supports, which is stages. How it works is that basically only Matt and I can talk. If you want to ask a question, there's this function that I first have to activate that you can request to speak. So basically, you just raise your hand, and then we have a list of all the people that wanted to ask questions. And then we'll invite you to speak. So you come on stage, basically, on the virtual stage, and then you can ask a question, and then we'll answer it here. If you don't want to talk or you can't talk, you can also write the questions in the chat, and we'll answer those as well. I hope that is clear so far to the process. Even though it's called Ask Me Anything or Ask Us Anything, it's only regarding like Perfect Tower 2. So shall we get started, or do you want to say anything, Matt?
Nope, I think we can start. And it's getting pretty full, I have to say.
Yes, and so many people are joining right now. Maybe should we wait another minute? And maybe give a quick overview over the workers, maybe, which is the main thing we're working on right now.
Yeah, sure. Like mentioned in the Steam post, we're currently working on the workers, basically the pre-AI automation. And yeah, they're mostly done. We just need to add the actual tasks they can perform. And yeah, their main feature is automating the town while you are playing a tower run or a boss fight, or basically like the AI in a more simple form and always active. So you don't have to open the UI of a specific building in order for them to perform the work. Yeah, basically the core functionality.
Okay. One question that I want to answer right away is how long is this AMA going to last? Basically, we don't have a full schedule for it. It's basically as long as you have questions, we'll answer them. But we're aiming to stop at least at like around in an hour. So that's for 8 in our time. Okay, let's see if I can activate the feature for people to ask to speak. You should now, if you click on stage, yes. Okay, it's working. Good. You should have this little hand icon that's going to let you speak. So let's try this out and invite Novato to the stage so we can hear the question.
Oh,
Hello.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Will you be adding modding support?
Should I answer or you, Matt?
We can both answer, but yeah, you can start if you like.
Okay, so basically, yes. We are not 100% sure what will be moddable in total, but we're trying to make as much as possible of the game moddable. We've had this in mind from the beginning, so basically everything is built in a way that we can mod it. But there's also a lot of things that we still have to change to allow modding. So basically, yes. When will it be available? Maybe a first version before the first version, so V1. But otherwise, after like the normal game is done, modding will be modding support will be available basically.
Yeah.
Want to add to that?
No.
Yeah, most likely the very first modding features will be content mods. So like changing factory recipes, adding new ones, adding new modules for the tower and stuff like that. So content mods, yeah, are, I would say, almost ready. We just need to find a way to externalize most of the game's data. Yeah.
Okay, now does that answer your question so far?
Yeah.
All right, then thank you for joining us, and we'll be inviting the next person. Let's see. Oh, it's now filling up. Amadeus wants to speak next. Let's invite them. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So, do you think there ever be a future where we can like be able to stack machines, like be able to have like 3 crushers, 3 furnaces, etc.? Because smelting down mass amounts or crushing down mass amounts of dust slash ore takes forever, even with tier 10 machines.
Yes, there's going to be a second floor in the factory that's going to introduce 3 new mechanics in total. And one of them is basically going to be some sort of query features where you can line up machines or recipes, and basically you input the items you want to process on the left, and yeah, it goes through the whole production line. But not
Okay,
it's
so
not
basically some sort of like automation.
sorry.
Basically like some sort of automation. Like once it gets done with this, it goes to this machine.
Exactly, but not focused on layouting. So it's basically just query lines, so you don't have to organize them on a field or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, and in that query menu, you will most likely be able to stack machines. So if you add, for example, not 1 shaper or something, but 10, then it basically processes the things 10 times as fast.
Okay,
So it
yeah.
includes, solves 2 problems at once.
Okay, yeah, that pretty much answers my question.
Great, thanks.
All right. Then next up we have Fostar. Let's invite them to the stage. Hello, what's your question?
Hi.
Can you hear us? Can you speak? Let's give them a moment, and in the meantime.
Hello?
Oh.
Sorry, my microphone was being a bit iffy.
That's all right. We can hear you now.
All right, so my question was, why am I so stressed over this? My question was, how much will, for the workers, will we have to continually pay them, or are they just slave labor?
Well, you answer.
Okay, I'm going to answer. You basically have to only pay them once to purchase them, and then you can assign them anytime. Will perform endlessly. They're only this speed, which is also upgradable.
Oh, that's going to be useful.
And to add to that, if you've read the news post on Steam, there's also going to be military perks, and they will some sort also influence the workers.
But not in next update. Military perks are planned for the future because we need to implement some other stuff first. Yeah.
Cool and good.
All right. Does that answer your question? Or do you
Yeah,
have anything to add
thanks.
to that?
That's good.
All right. Thank you for your question.
Thanks.
And then let's bring the next person up here. Next up, it's Lich.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Well, it's Lich actually. So
Sorry.
thank you guys for inviting me. And first of all, I would absolutely love to thank you for the Perfect Tower 2 because I absolutely loved Perfect Tower 1 and I was looking and checking if there are some upgrades and then boom, Perfect Tower comes out and it's everything I wanted. So thank you guys greatly. So I have a couple of questions and then mostly about the quality of life. So first off, is it possible to run the tower in the background because there are some bonuses related to tower running, and I want to grind the modules, all that stuff. But at the same thing, I cannot manage the town because I'm stuck to the screen with the tower running. So is it possible to launch it, like to go into background, some infinite mode or whatever?
But first of all, thank you for the kind words. We're glad that you enjoyed the game so far. And I think Matt was already eager to answer that, so I'll let him answer.
How was I eager to answer that? Okay, I'm going to answer that. I think this is a bit of a technical issue since the main game is basically in a different scene, the tower game. So in order to provide the functionality to edit the town, we would have to bring the whole town UI into the other scene. And currently, this is quite difficult to solve technically because interaction with the buildings on a data level is possible, but not on a user interface level, because we'd have to recreate all the user interfaces there. And
Okay.
yeah, basically that's why it's difficult at the moment. But we're trying to find as many ways as possible to interact with the town from the tower game, or to keep the runs as short as possible, so you don't have to spend multiple hours into a run in order to achieve something.
Okay, thank you. And the second question I would like to ask is, well, you already half answered the question. It's regarding the automation, and I would like to have like an automation in a simplest way. So the way you have it is great. Then like you can program any sort of automation. But if you look at it, most people will use like very common scripts for like everybody would like to have the auto opening of the mine tiles as soon as the mine pages are ready to refresh, etc. Or when you work, this is the big thing for me. When I work with the factory, I have insane amount of ores, and I have to turn them into dust and then mix the dust and upgrade the lower dusts into the highest tier dust to finally craft someone, and it's very, very tedious. So maybe you could create like pre-made automation programs that you unlock somewhere in some mode. Only are available if you have unlocked the necessary automation programs that do already some basic functions that most of the player would want to have. Because programming is great, but sometimes when you play an idle game, you just don't want to have programming lessons there.
Yeah, very, very good question. And I think that's what a lot of people are actually asking. There's two things to this as my answer. First of all, for the scripts, it's going to be easier in the future because we're still planning to add like some sort of workshop that's gonna like for scripts, some sort of workshop that you can go look for scripts and share scripts, which then in fact will hopefully also work with Steam workshops. So you'll be able to post your scripts there, and it will be easily from the game available to like pick a script and just import it. And the second thing is the workers, which basically are some pre-automation, which do like smaller chunks of tasks that can automate the game for you. They partially also work like during tower grinding, so some of them, I don't want to say all of them, will also function while you are farming in the game. So for example, for the mine, there's already like a test that we implemented that's going to refill your drill and start the drill, so it keeps drilling. And you will also be able to like mine layers, for example. For factory specifically, I would let Matt answer because he's taking care of that.
Yeah, so for the workers are basically the most simple form of automation. So they're not going to do really complex stuffs in factory, but they will be able to do stuff like restarting refining, automatically getting the refining screen, putting stuff into machines, crafting basic items, but they won't be able to do some complex crafting chains. That's going to be in the second floor of the factory. So the workers are basically like, I would say from a complexity level, they perform 1 to 2 AI lines. by themselves.
Okay, thank you very much. It's just very nice to hear. And again, thank you very much for the game. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Really great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Also great questions. And I think we'll invite the next one up here. Maybe let's do one more because the list is filling up, but also the list of questions in chat is filling up. So let's invite one more speaker and then let's review the questions that has been asked in chat. So next up is our friend Daniel.
Hello and welcome to the AMA featuring Daniel Zane. You can ask me anything, so go ahead.
Hello, how was your last podcast?
It was good. So for my actual questions, first one, are you recording this?
I'm not sure.
I think Buddy is recording, hopefully.
Okay, my second question is regarding I forgot, the producers. Do you plan to add additional producers or at least additional tiers to the producers?
I actually planned different types of producers for the future, but we have to wait for the shipyard rework because it's also going to boost the factory. So in total, the factory should be able to almost keep up with the endgame requirements in the future.
Yeah, because there are 15 producers and 16 slots, and it's annoying.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to add a different type of producer for something like I don't know, a booster producer or a producer booster that boosts all other producers or something like that.
Yeah, and the last question, merch when?
Still unknown.
Disappointing. I'm disappointed in you. You should improve that. Okay, I will leave you to your AMA, so take care. Bye.
Thank you for coming by and great question. Okay, Matt, there should where Potato Master is posting all the questions for us. Do you see that?
Yes.
All right, so then maybe we can go through like some of the questions from chat. The modding support we've already answered. Secret cow level when? I guess when it's coming or if it's coming, it will be in Easter eggs, so we shouldn't say when. Russian localization. We don't plan to do it ourselves, but we're still working on some localization, like community localization thing.
Well, actually, I can say something to that because
Okay.
recently someone contacted me regarding Russian localization, and I already have the char set. We just need to generate a font, and the game is then able to support Cyrillic characters. So, yeah, the game is probably going to support a Russian font in one of the next few updates.
All right, but we're still not gonna do it ourselves. So if you want to do community localization, like Matt said, that will be possible in some of the next updates once the new font is in. And for community localization in general, there's something that I can't really talk about yet, but we'll also present you with like a platform to work together on community localization in the near future. When will you release a mechanic that will change all idle games forever? Good question. I don't know what to say to that.
Probably never. It has to be the most generic game ever, because otherwise it could stick out. A mechanic that will change all idle games forever.
It's a very
Surprise
hard question.
multiplayer. Surprise MMO mechanics.
Yeah, I think that would change idle games forever if we find a really good and usable multiplayer way where it's basically an MMO. What other games do you have in mind for the arcade? So arcade is actually a big question mark that Matt and I are also discussing because I think that we should get rid of the arcade and replace it with something else, but we might also just stick to it. And then there's a few games that I have in a document that could be in the arcade, but we have to set on 2 games that will implement for version 1, and after that we might add some of the other games. And if the arcade stays, it will also be possible to add games via mods. Will scripting be improved? Reading values from screen, maybe some type of reading variables from actively open window.
There's a planned AI upgrade update that will introduce a better scripting user interface and a scriptable AI overlay. So you can basically create your own windows with buttons and value displays, so that you can basically build yourself a control panel for the AI. But there's no set date yet at when this is going to be implemented, as we're currently focusing on the early game and the actual ending of the game. So probably, I would say later this year.
All right. The next question is, will payments with Steam Wallet be possible? The short answer is yes. The only thing that we have to figure out is we're working with like an external company to do all the in-app purchases. So we still are figuring out with them how it's going to work with Steam, because Steam is a bit special in that regards. And they can only do it via website, it seems. So we'll also have to figure out a way to support native Steam wallet support. And while we're on that question, I also want to add that yes, PayPal is going to be possible, and it's actually almost done. So hopefully with the next update, you'll also be able to pay via PayPal. Let's take one more question, and then let's invite the next person on stage. What part of the game are you most proud of? Matt, do you want to start?
Okay. Well, the part I'm most proud of is not even in yet. That would be the final boss. But from the parts that are already implemented, I would say, how to say which part. I don't know why, but I really like how Dark Realm turned out. I have no idea why, but from all the regions I made, I don't know why, but personally I like Dark Realm the most. Yeah, it's not quite a common opinion. And mechanically wise, I would say actually the AI is I think not from the way it's implemented from a UI perspective, but from a technical perspective, it's incredibly easy to add new functions and actions to the AI. And if I had to choose anything from what's already implemented in the game, I would say the AI.
Okay, so for me, I would answer completely different, because the thing that I'm most proud of it is actually all the systems that we have in place in the background, which at the beginning I thought it will end a little bit like Perfect Tower 1, where everything is chaotic and kind of intertwined with each other and very chaotic in general. But it's actually turned out to be a very clean system. We have, of course, there's things that need to be refactored, but in general, like all the things that we wrote in code are so modular that we can take them out and you wouldn't really notice, like the game wouldn't break. There's a few things, of course, that are core mechanics that we can't take out, but just that everything has worked out that way and that everything's so nice and clear and makes sense is like what I'm proud of most, I think.
It's the main difference between Perfect Tower 1 and Perfect Tower 2. Perfect Tower 1 is a mess on the code base, and Perfect Tower 2 is a mess and is UI-wise.
Basically. But also, I'm actually, if I think back on the start of Perfect Tower 2, I'm very proud how quickly and we actually did everything and how it turned out, and it's still great. Like I like almost all regions. I just love them, and I also like how all the buildings itself, like the models, have turned out. It's actually also something I'm proud of. All right. We have a few people lined up again, so let's invite the next person up. Sorry if I butcher your name, but I think it's Terlan. Terlan, you are up next. I have invited you to the stage. Oh yeah, there we go.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, my question is, are there any plans to improve the mine with like a prestige system or anything like that?
Yes, I can answer that. There's going to be a second floor. I can confirm a second floor for the mine, the power plant, and the factory. Not sure about the other buildings yet, but I have definite plans for the mine and the power plant and the factory.
Oh yeah, great. That's yeah, that's what I wanted to know. And thanks for the game in general. I really like it a lot.
Thanks for playing it.
Yeah, thank you. It's always great to hear from people that they're enjoying it. And actually, while we have you up here, what's the thing that you like most and the thing that you hate most about the game?
Oh, yeah. I played a lot of incremental games, and I really like a lot to a lot of callbacks in the lab with all the different experiments. It's like little mini games in a game, and they all in some kind work together, and that's what I like the most about it. What I don't like about the game would be um, the AI, because I'm no programmer. I played around a little, and it's too hard for me to start programming.
All right, yeah, that makes.
It's understandable.
Yeah. And I think hopefully we can change this in the future with like much clearer and easier user interface, but that will also take some time.
Yeah, the goal was to make it as readable as possible, but the problem is that not as simple as possible at the moment. So basically, once you have a script that's ready, that's not too complicated, you can read it from top to bottom, and it should make sense to everyone reading it. But if you try to do more complex stuff, it gets just as complex as programming. Yeah. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for your question. I think we should invite the next person up here. All right. And next up we have Hecatero, I guess is the name. Hello and welcome.
Hi. So my question would be, will you ever add any form of boosters or a way to pay money directly for a quicker progression? To pay to win, basically.
Are you going to answer that, Sweetie, or
I guess we both can. So no, like we have a strict no pay to win, like what's the word? Like mentality, like one of our core values is basically no pay to win. So there's nothing going to be in the game that you can straight up pay or is needed to pay to progress. There are no like time walls that you have to pay or can pay to suppress faster. As for boosters, in a way, I would say there is something that can change a little, which is global boosts. I don't know if you know, but they're basically a way, or there will be a way to. Sorry, just need to drink some water for a moment.
Yeah, so the global boosters, I think, is a cool idea where everybody gets modules, right?
So yeah, I continue where Speedy went off.
All right.
Global boosts are basically one player is using the boost and every player gets boosted. Similar like I think Cookie Clicker has these heralds or what they're called, the patrons I think, once you have a specific patron rank, everyone gets boosted in the game. A similar mechanic to that, just that anyone can boost. So basically, you purchase 20 boosters, and then you can boost the resource drops for everyone by 20%. Of course, there will be a cap, an upper limit, so that you can't just get the resource boost into the trillions. Yeah, but this is going to be the only way. A while ago, we made a channel on the Discord to ask the community what they think would be fair and would not count as pay to win, and everyone agreed that this wouldn't count as pay to win since it affects everyone who's playing the game with an active internet connection. So, yeah, I guess.
Okay, cool.
It's fair.
Sounds like a way to go about it. So, Speedy, you want to continue, or I would have a follow-up question?
Let's just hear your question.
Okay, so the follow-up question is, so how do you plan? I guess that's one way to monetize the game long term, but what are ways for players currently to support the development?
So basically, like one thing that you can do in game is buy embers, which is our virtual currency. For that, you can right now only buy island/town skins, but we'll also have global boosts and building skins and a few other things regarding tower customization in there in the future. We'll add them gradually. So if you want to already buy some ember, you will then have, you'll have the ability to buy all the skins that are global boosts later with ember. And also ember is like our more, how do you say it? Like, I would call it like a virtual currency for all our games. So basically, it's not just Perfect Tower 2. If you buy Ember, you will also be able to use it, for example, on Perfect Tower 1 once that comes to our website. So it's like a global thing that you can long-term use, not just for Perfect Tower 2. Other ways to support us would actually be like share information about the game. Just share it with your friends, share it on social media. If you like the game, of course, leave a positive review on Steam. That always helps. Always helps with Steam discovery, and for Steam to also show us on the front page again, which brings in new people.
All right.
Yeah, I think that those are the main things.
All right, cool. So did I understand correctly that are plans for global boosters which percentually increase like income or something at some point? That's my last question.
We're not 100% sure on what the values will all be changeable with global boosters, but yes, basically there will be those boosters that can change certain attributes.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's going to affect all players, so that's fair and not pay to win.
Yeah, I really like that part. Cool. Thank you very much.
I think we should also mention that you'll be able to opt out for those people who just want to play it without any external help, so to speak.
Nice addition. Cool. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for your questions.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you.
All right. So next up, let's invite our most famous Cylinder Slayer, Buddy. Buddy, come up here. Ask your question.
I was wondering how long it would take for you to actually get me up here. I've had Mad Red for like 3 hours. So I have a few questions up here. My first question is, like, I've mentioned this to Matt before, but where's my boiler buff? It's the most expensive machine and the slowest machine, also the most useless machine. What?
Well, if we boosted the boiler, then there wouldn't be a worse machine, or would they? Would there?
If I spend 2,000 ingots on a single machine, I expect it to be able to craft the boiled blocks from my exotic producers at some possible rate.
Well, if I would have to spoiler a lot about the second floor of the factory in order to respond to that. So let me just say, you know what the mass fabricator is in Minecraft, right?
Oh.
That's all I'm going to say to it.
Oh, I like the sound of that. Alright, so my next question is... Let's go with the actual non-jokes question here.
Okay.
When will we get any XP or town XP boosts?
Boosts as in ways of the game to increase
Yeah.
XP, or okay. Good question, because I don't think we've talked about this recently. We talked about town XP last when we started to go into beta, I think, and decided to leave it for now. I don't know, Matt, do you already have something planned for that?
Yes, actually, I had a thought of about a few things, because there are still a few town building obsolete over time, or are not that useful after all, and we could enhance them with, for example, a 5% town XP boost or something like that, so you get anything out of them. Like, for example, what was it? Like canceling for boost in headquarters, for contracts in headquarters. I could get an additional 10% increase in town XP or something like that. So it's actually worth to choose skills like that.
I guess it would be possible to also like add a town perk for more XP gotten.
Well, technically, yes.
It depends on like its values if it
The-
would be balanced or not.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that this was one of the perks that we discussed back in the days when we added town perks, but decided against it. So I think it is something that we just have to discuss and think about again how we want to handle it. I can also imagine, for example, an artifact that can increase town XP, and maybe also possibly with global boost. So there's many factors that we can still add.
Alright. So another quick question is the module infinity range. Why is it called infinity range if it doesn't give you infinite range? Like it wouldn't really be overpowered to have infinite range. Like, I've looked at it.
Oh, sorry. Continue.
I've like looked into like looking at it, and that sentence does not make any sense. But it's not very broken for it to have, or you be able to like shoot the enemies the moment they spawn. Because like yeah, impetus would do a lot more damage, but at our point we're already one-shotting everything, so it doesn't matter.
Well, I could be a bit nitpicky about this because it's called infinity range, not infinite range. So it's basically range for infinity, but not infinite range. Now, but all jokes aside, if we added an infinite range module, it would make all other range boosts kind of obsolete. So I don't know.
I just feel like the 10% range boost it gives is way too weak for it to actually like be useful.
I mean, I guess we can take that with us as feedback and look at it. I noted it down.
I mean, 10% doesn't look that less if you check it out in the next update, because I added the range indicator, like in Perfect Tower 1.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, it's actually Hurricane is also has a greater impact than I thought. That the range is visual.
Yeah, and for my last question, do you have any plans to make exotic producers, like making billions of them, not as overpowered? To like reduce the exotic gem inflation in Infinity Phase?
Yes and no. Basically, yes, there will be. Okay, just to summarize this in short, yes, there will be some kind of, I wouldn't say cap, but basically harder requirements to create more exotic producers.
All right.
And we should add that there will also still be a few more things that you can use them on, so they will be required for something.
Well, that does it for all my questions for now.
All right.
It's great being able to speak.
Pardon?
Thank you. And I guess we'll invite the next person. See you, buddy. So, Let's see who's next. Modus wants to say something again. Let's invite him to the stage before we continue. Hello, welcome back.
Hello. Yeah, I have two more questions that popped into my head. First question is, do you have any plans of adding more zones in the future? Like adding maybe like a second, like another world with like an additional like 15 zones or something along those lines?
So for regions, we actually plan to do all the ones that are in. This is what's going to be in version 1. We do have like the option, and we keep that as an option for ourselves to add more in a future update. And we also have the option, which is something we wanted to do, but we'll see if we'll get around to this, to add like new islands for specific events. For example, we could do a month-long event where we add an additional island where you can build a second town where you have different tasks, event-specific tasks that you can do. But that's basically all just planned stuff. It's not in the game yet, and we can't really confirm it. But yeah, that's something that we have in theory planned.
Okay. And my second question is, how long how long what did it take for development before a playable version of the game was available? How long did the initial development?
I think that's a really hard question because the first, let's say, the project was created very early by Matt while we were still working on Perfect Tower 1 actually, and then only in 2019 did we start actually developing the game. And I'm just talking from memory here, but I think like really early on, maybe was it like after a month or maybe 2 months, we already released like the first version to test for people. So like very, very early in development, we started actually letting it be playable by the community. And then from that point onwards, we just worked with the community on the game. Maybe Matt has something to add to that.
I'm currently checking out YouTube to see when we uploaded the first video. Okay, it was 2 years ago. March 27, 2019. Okay, so basically the first playable version took, let's see, 3 months, 4 months development until it was playable, but not from, not for not a releasable version, but let's say a streamable version was ready. Yeah, so 4 months.
So
Okay.
actually the prototype, I have it here now, I found it, was from June 2019, and our first published version was then in August, where we started developing.
So it was roughly like 3 to 4 months for
Yeah,
the first
roughly.
playable version.
Yeah.
Okay. That about answers everything. Thank you for answering those, and just with Perfect Tower 2.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for your additional questions.
Yep.
Let's get the next person up here. I guess the name is Stanley X, I would say.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. First of all, I would like to again say thank you to you guys for making this game, because I feel like, in my opinion, this is one of the best idle games that exists currently. This is probably a Malware idle, because it gives players the ability to do a lot of things which not a lot of idle games actually offer you, because most of them are like looking at the progress bars, but somehow I feel like Perfect Tower 2 is different and I really enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And as for the question, are you planning on maybe doing a tutorial for the facility AI? Because I personally enjoy programming, I love it, but I know that some people don't have time or are not that interested in it. And I think that your game could introduce a lot of people to it and could show a fun side of it, I think.
Yes, there are tutorials planned actually. I already have a few ideas for example scripts. For example, the easiest one anyone could make would be an autoclicker, and it could be an instruction-based tutorial basically, which tells you how to create an autoclicker script, because you only need around 2 actions and 1 impulse.
Mm-hmm.
And from that on, we could gradually add more complex tutorials for a bit more complex scripts. And yeah, so for anything beyond that, yeah, we have to see how we're dealing with the complex scripts. It all depends on how the rework of the UI is going to look then. But the goal is to give a smooth instruction to scripting. And in the worst case scenario,
What's
for
this?
people that don't want to script at
Oh.
all, we're going to provide, like Speedy mentioned, the workshop option or the basically script sharing option.
All right. That pretty much answers my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
questions. All right. We have one more person that wants to speak to us. Max, you're up next. Come onto the stage.
How's it going? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome.
Oh, hi. So I just had a couple questions regarding the facility AI. I guess my first one would be, do you guys have any plans to extend the functionality of it in terms of putting, I guess, more quality of life functions into it, or more functions that allow it to interact with different different buttons within each facility?
Yes, actually,
Okay.
oh, sorry.
Oh, no, nothing. Go ahead.
Okay. So yes, basically the click function and the scroll bar functions are actually just placeholders at the moment to provide at least some sort of automation for stuff that does not provide convenience methods at the moment. The only problem we have when it comes to adding functions is it takes a long time to add the localizations, because each function has strings, one for description, one for the actual line in the script, and one for the menu. And so the actual part to adding the functions takes about like 1 or 2 minutes, but to add all the localizations takes around another 10 minutes. So if you add 10 functions, you're already at have a workload of around 1 to 2 hours.
Right. Yeah, I
Right.
guess my only issue with the click function is that I can't do anything with rescaling my UI, so I have to keep it at a certain scale, and then if I want to use any sort of screen clicking function, it has to stay there in between each script. But also, one quality of life thing I was gonna ask about was being able to drag the lines up and down instead of clicking the arrows. Because if you're making a very long script, it can be quite confusing to have to click up and down to change which line a piece of code is on.
Yes, I can confirm that this is going to be implemented. It's actually currently, I think, the most upvoted suggestion.
Okay, great.
And yeah, it's just, oh, sorry?
The limit of how many lines you can have. Do you think once you max out every CPU or all the RAM, you could just make it so it's like 1,000 lines? Because it seems arbitrary, since you can just call other scripts within a script to have it be limited in one script.
Oh, it's mostly related to the memory usage of scripts for the web version, because we have a limited storage there, and I'm not sure how I calculated it back then. I think 22 is actually arbitrary. The limit is actually at, I don't know, I think 50 lines or something like that. But we wanted to keep room for AI upgrades in the future.
Okay.
And
also gotta add to that is that there's also, I think we already did a limit to the amount of scripts you can have. If not, that is something that we wanted to do, because of course, yeah, because everything is stored in your save game. So especially like on PC, it's not that much of a problem, but on the web, that is like a big issue. It can get too big.
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
So I think we'll have to find a solution for that in the future as well. Especially with like Workshop, which I mentioned earlier. We anyways will have the need to save scripts basically somewhere else and not in the save game directly. And for that, I guess we can also increase like limits like that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that was all I had on my mind. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for the question. All right, then Daniel wants to say something again, and then we can go to more of the chat questions. Daniel, come up here. Come on stage.
I wanted to ask, exotics and gems do not really seem that good at like mid part of the game when you get the exotic skills done and finish with the experiments. So do you plan to have some kind of additional use for both types of gems?
Yeah, at least for gems, the workers are going to use them. So you basically have to save up for to purchase the next worker because the price increases exponentially. So you have at least a goal to work towards with your gems, and the reward is quite satisfying because one fewer task to do in the town. Already, I mentioned it a few times in the chat before. It feels kind of awkward. It feels like you're not playing alone. I have no idea why, but yeah, it gives off this strange feeling of another presence in town. And for exotic gems, I think I think it's going to balance out once the actual boss tiers are in, because you won't be able to get exotic gems in a huge amount that early in the game. Currently, it's easy because you can just do, like, for example, the second boss 4, 5, 6 times up to tier 6. But in the future, once the boss fights actually get harder, you won't be able to get that far.
Next question is about modules. You plan to do about 100 and I do not know how many challenges in the each zone. So will each challenge produce its own module? And if so, then how many modules do you expect to have?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
Because you plan to do a lot of challenges that I have seen from the roadmap. Each difficulty and each zone will have its own challenges, right?
Not each difficulty, but each zone will have a set amount of challenges.
Yeah, so basically six challenges per region. That means 90 challenges in total.
So do you have all of those modules already planned out, or will you plan them out as time goes?
You mean as a reward for the challenges?
Yes.
Not really, but also not all challenges give reward like module rewards. Some have special effects, and at least one of each region is going to have a very special effect. Like, for example, I don't know which challenge number it is, but it gives an effect based on how many challenges you have completed. And like those are also the type of things we want to add with the challenges, not just module rewards.
Yep, and I can also confirm. Sorry. Yeah, I can confirm that there will be at least one challenge that gives you exotic gems before you can defeat the first boss.
And the final question, so I don't take up too much time, will you ever add detrimental modules?
Detrimental?
Yes, so like trap modules, pretty much. Modules that look good on the surface, but are actually bad.
That would actually be a spoiler, but there is already a module like that in the game.
Okay, and that's all the time that we have. So see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, so I'm closing questions in the speaking audience now, and I would say let's go through the questions that Potato has picked out for us. By the way, thank you, Potato, for doing this, and also thank you for Xenos for looking after the chat. Let's go through those questions, and then let's see what time it is when we're done. Will the game made for mobile eventually? Will the game be made for mobile eventually, I guess? Yes, that is confirmed. We said we'll be publishing it for web, Steam, and mobile, but we do not know when this will be. We're first focusing on finishing version 1 so that everything is in, and then we are going to polish it for mobile, or like make an actual mobile version out of it, and that will also be tested first. So there will be probably a alpha beta test for mobile. And yes, iOS and Android. This is a question for Matt. Will there be higher tier ore in the factory?
Not if we're referring to ores in terms of tier.
All right.
That's all I'm going to say.
Since the past few updates have been about early game content, is the next update after work going to be more about mid to late game? I can also now say, since I guess I forgot that before, we can also see who asked that. So there was a question by Chasm, basically asking if, since the last updates have been focused on early game, if the ones after that will be focused on more mid-late game stuff. And I think in January, yes, that's what we have planned, but it also depends a little bit on how far we get in the next few updates and if there are like major things that we have to rework.
I mean, there's probably going to be one bigger surprise update that adds the final boss to the game, but I can't give an exact date when it's going to be done yet, because Speedy has already seen it now, and he can confirm that there's still a lot of work to do. Yeah, especially for the ending cinematic.
Yes, and we can say like the final boss is also the military tier 15 update, which is going to be like quite a big update. So that has to be prepared well, and that will take a while until it's out. But yes, to go back to the question, we're focusing now more on early game stuff. But once those updates are out, we'll focus about like the late game. And I think also, hopefully, if the server issues are fixed, we then will also be focused on more like the competitive scene, which means we're bringing leaderboards back. But that really depends on how stable everything's running now. Then Kesam also asks, when will you add more lore into the game?
Actually, the final battle is going to add some lore to the game.
Yeah, and I think in general it's not something that we plan to add at once. It's more like it will gradually come, and probably more towards the end we'll add more, because we have a basic lore behind it. We have like a more or less, you can say, story. I don't know if you can really say story, but like a verse in the idea behind it, and we'll add more to that.
Yeah, we're going to add some clues in the tutorials of the buildings. So yeah, usually 1 or 2 lines that give a few, let's say, additional lore.
But again, no estimate on when there will be. It will be more gradually added. Then there's just the question, workers plus scripts. I guess I assume the question is, do they work with scripts? Or is the question, can they be controlled with scripts?
Scripts.
Just this workers plus scripts.
So basically, there are going to be 2 ways to interact with the workers. You can assign names to the workers, and you can give them a certain color, and there will be commands to make certain workers perform a specific task or workers of a specific color perform a specific task. So basically, you have two ways to either group them or address them directly. And in the future, once the workers are going to be visually visible in the town, the names are going to be used there too, and the color as well. So basically, they're going to run around in town, so we can actually click them. But
Right.
to summarize the answer, yes, interaction between workers and scripts is going to be possible, and we're probably going to extend some of the reading functionalities of the AI so that the AI can access certain building values even while being in an active round. So basically, you can command the workers in town during the tower run.
All right. I think that answers that. Will there be another procedures? Pro-to-ter.
In terms of another layer on top of military tier, or?
I assume so. I'm trying to find it in the chat to have some context.
Does new game plus count, or?
I mean, it's some sort of prestige, but I don't know if that's what they meant. But yeah, we can say new game plus is a thing. At least something that we have planned. But other than that, I wouldn't say there's anything specific planned. At least not overall progression-wise. Okay, then Gamerhand asks, how many changes should we expect in the experiments? I think that's more a question for you. Because some of the experiments are still prototypes. So I guess the question can be interpreted as what will the real versions of the prototypes look like? What changes?
It really depends on the experiment themselves. I can go through them quickly to say how they're going to change. Okay, now the game open. Okay, the experiments that are probably not going to change a lot in terms of how they are going to work are the neutral, the water, the nature experiment, the darkness experiment, the universal experiment, and the Earth experiment. But I have to say something to the Earth experiment. There are a future how certain things are going to be calculated internally so that it plays out the way it's expected to. But other than that, the most drastic changes are probably going to be to the light experiment, the air experiment, and to check. Well, when I'm talking about drastic, I mean things like the new experiment could look entirely different. I mean, the GEMS experiment is also going to change entirely, but it's probably going to look quite similar, even though it's going to work entirely different. Same with the exotic experiment. Yeah, fire is going to stay a bit antimatter dimension-like, and electricity is going to receive quite a lot of mechanical changes in the background. So, yeah, apart from the 5 experiments I mentioned in the beginning, neutral, darkness, water, nature, and earth, the rest of them, and universal, sorry, 6 experiments, the others are going to receive quite strong, noticeable changes.
It's good that you mentioned Alternate Dimension once Heavy drops out of the audience.
Oh.
That was well timed. All right, I think that answers that. Then Buddy asks, when will we receive acceleration producers?
Second. Just
Acceleration
tick, tick. Darkness needs rebalancing though. You can't maximize it. Yeah. I was not referring to value changes here. Just to look and feel and technical changes. Okay. acceleration producer when? So when second floor of the factory, together with military perks.
All right. Arcade upgrade. When is then the next question? And
Well, that's something for you.
I guess we kind of answered it earlier, where the fate of the arcade is still up to be decided. But basically, I guess that's something that will come after, like very shortly after we finish like the worker update, and maybe the military perk update, or maybe even with the military perk update, there will be something done to the arcade as well. So, just we'll inform you in like future news posts about that. Estimated time on some content update as Naru's Prime. And if everything goes well, we'll have like one big update this week, which is the workers. But it really depends. Like that's still work in progress. We might also release like a smaller update before that, to just push some content, or in some bug fixes that we have been fixed like even 2 weeks ago almost, and still are not out there. So depending on how the workers, like if everything works, then there will be an update with the workers. Otherwise, there will be at least a bug fix and maybe some content update this week.
I have to change one of the things I said earlier. Buddy mentioned acceleration producers. So in terms of wave acceleration, so no, they're not going to be wave acceleration producers. I thought you meant boosters. Because no wave boosting via the factory.
All right. I'm us 76 as did you expect the Perfect Tower 1 to have as big of a community as it did? And my answer to that is no, not at all. Like the Perfect Tower 1 was just a weekend project of Matt's that he then published on Congregate because we wanted to try out the platform, and then basically exploded, and I had to step in and help with like community and everything, and so it just grew, and no, there was no expectation at all. How was it for you, Matt? The experience with Perfect Tower 1?
Yeah, actually I was really surprised. Back then I just wanted to create a small game just to, yeah, like you said, try out Congregate and to try out Unity, because I've never ever done anything in Unity before. And yeah, just put something together on a weekend and then uploaded it, and I knew that a lot of things were broken actually. For example, the first version you could infinitely upgrade anything. Prices were not scaled at all. Everything cost the same. Yeah, so I knew it was a mess. I was just wanted to get something out and yeah, try out the platform. But once the play counts got into the 10,000s, yeah, it kind of blew me away. I spent literally day and night just to continue working on the game. Yeah. So to summarize, no, I never expected it to have a big community, a big ass community as it did.
Yeah, also never expected to have millions of plays.
Yeah.
But very happy about how it turned out and that we could go to PPT2 from that. Xanos asks, what will happen to boss roles when bosses can be automated? What about leaderboards and achievements? Will kills with the AI active count as different type of the? Okay, that basically relates to Discord roles that we have for different bosses. And actually, I'm not really sure how we're going to handle it. Kills will definitely be something that we could do, but then it's just like let it run with an AI, which will most likely be possible in the future. And then yeah, whoever runs it the longest basically has the role. So we'll have some form of competition in that. And I'm still thinking about ways for that. But for now, the system works, and once it doesn't work, we'll think of something else. So Smack Mayonnaise kind of has something that we've answered in a way before. Will workers be able to activate scripts?
Basically, activating scripts directly is probably not going to be possible, just the way how workers work. Basically, how workers are working. But there will most likely be a way to listen to some worker events from an AI perspective, because the workers are basically standalone automations. So yeah, it's probably going to be the other way around. So the AI can interact with the workers, but the workers will probably not directly interact with the AI, but could trigger some impulses that can trigger AI scripts.
Okay, well, I have a couple, like a lot of questions actually to go through. So let's maybe do a quick round. Gizmo asks, would you change some things for people who can't make the computer be on for days straight? Well, I would say it's actually not really planned that you have it on for days. For things like error, not to spoil anything, but to get there, there's actually an easy way that doesn't require endless runs. As well for other phases. Like there are already some ways.
In a nutshell, we're going to adjust things constantly until it's possible, basically, to not have your PC running day and night just to get somewhere in the game. So regular progression will not require leaving the game open for days. That's the goal of version 1.
Okay, SEO Master asks, when will MT15? It's basically something we asked before. We can't really give a date about it. The final boss is coming along, and it will be a bigger update, so it takes some time. Will any other experience be reworked? We also kind of answered that already. So let's skip that. Vault asks, any plans to try making a lot of the online grinding of Infinity possible offline? Which in a way, I guess, relates to the question about keeping the PC on. But I don't think it will be available to be done completely offline, like not playing the game. But like Matt said, there will be, like, we're adjusting values, and there will be more methods to do it without having endless runs. Chasm asks, will there be achievements for killing 1,000 of each boss, basically? Right now, there's no plan for that. But since so many of you are just farming bosses, maybe we'll add achievements for that as well.
But we have to mention that we're probably going to separate the secret achievements away from the regular achievements, because it shouldn't be a requirement to kill a boss 1,000 times. Wasn't it actually an Easter egg in the beginning?
It is still an Easter egg. It is still like a hidden achievement. It doesn't even show up until you have it. So yeah, we'll think about something. Marefiu, I guess is the name. Sorry for butchering that. As where his role for beating perfect space as a pacifist. Let me get back to you after like the AMA. Then Smack Mayonnaise as, when will there be some low detail mode to not lag out in underground or while fighting Cubus Jr.?
Actually, there is a new setting in the next update I already implemented, which allows you to turn off dynamic light sources. Basically, it reduces the maximum amount of light sources per scene to 1, which makes the lighting look a bit awkward, but it should perform a lot faster. I can't really test it because I couldn't find a device that really lags in underground. But yeah, it should be noticeable, because the game automatically switches back to per vertex lighting, which is a lot faster, but it's not really pretty. But yeah, if that's not enough, then we're probably going to disable the light sources entirely when that setting is active.
Yeah, and I think Cubus Junior specifically will also have to look into it because there are some things that cause some issues as well, since it's synced to the audio. I also noticed on my laptop that this causes some issues, and there's a bug ticket for this, so that is something that we're still looking into. Then Xenos asks, is the Infinity Splash behavior intended?
It's
going
as
to be
intended
nerfed
as
in the future?
it's just as intended as the speed mode for the AI. The what's it called? Speed execution, turbo execution. Just as intended as this. So it's probably going to stay in the game until there are more Infinity modules. But yeah, for the time being, it serves its purpose.
All right. Gizmo asks, Speedy, how did I get you know what? Was it a bug or something else? I know what, and I guess the answer is only to you. It's an Easter egg that shouldn't be available right now. So basically, yeah, it was a bug that an Easter egg that's not available was available. Then Buddy asks, why are Infinity modules only tier 1 in code? I want to use them in challenges, but I can't. I guess it's actually two different questions. T1 they are because that's just how our system works. And I think, but I need Matt to confirm this, there will be some challenges that require you to have actually Infinity modules.
Well, I'm not sure about that because this would fall into the category of additional content because the regular 90 challenges are not going to require some Infinity modules because you'd be able to complete before even getting Infinity. But we might add some sort of Infinity challenge or something like that in the future.
Maybe we should also say, will it be possible to use Infinity modules on the normal challenges?
Not sure at the moment. We'll have to think about it because at the point where you have Infinity modules, it should be able to rush through all the challenges basically. So it shouldn't be a problem in terms of balance. Yeah, but we have to think about it. All
right. So we'll get back to that. Then Buddy also asks, do you have plans for some kind of stream schedule? Like once a month, every other week, or something like that? Basically, right now, not really. For a while, we did plan on more streams, and we did the weekly and then bi-weekly dev diaries. We're still going to do something in the future. Kind of trying to figure out something out actually right now, because I wanted, like, that's why the AMA is here. I wanted to maybe try and do like a weekly or monthly AMA, and then also the dev diaries will be something that continues once we are able to post more about like upcoming content. But for the moment, no, there's no real schedule planned. Chasm asks, I know there's building synergy between the mine, factory, trading post, and shipyard. Although some of those aren't in it, but are there any more buildings that need to have synergy?
It's quite difficult to answer because the mine, the factory, the trading post, and the shipyard are all some sort of responsible for resource production. So in their case, it makes sense to link them somehow together, because if they would all be able to separately increase your resources, then there will all this basically this is impossible to balance if you have multiple sources of income that work like that completely independently. So the goal was to link all of these buildings together to basically link the passive resource production somehow together. So once the shipyard is reworked, it will basically always be on the level of the factory. Same with the second floor of the mine. And yeah, for the other buildings, I'm not quite sure at the moment because the power plant basically is a link to all of the other buildings. The workshop is independent, Statue of Cubus is independent, laboratory is independent, arcade, I don't know. That's
Museum is
something.
independent. Headquarters is kind of independent, but could also link to others. And then the resource buildings, of course.
So maybe not such a direct synergy, but probably there will probably be more interaction between the buildings in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we had lined out at the beginning that we kind of strafed away a little, but maybe it's still something that we're looking at. So there might be other synergies as well. Will the soundtrack be extended or a music room of sorts as Terralan? Actually, there are no plans on that right now. The soundtrack is not made by us. We basically bought all the sounds and we're using what fits. Not sure if we're extending on that or if we're going to replace the sounds eventually by like custom-made music. For now, it feels like the need that we had, and there's no plan to extend it.
Yeah, but a music room where you can play all the sounds is still a possibility also, so we could add that sooner or later.
You mean where you can listen to the songs, or
yes,
where you can actually compose them? Or okay.
I think that's what we meant with music room.
I thought of music room more of something where you compose your own sounds.
Oh. Yeah, let's replace the arcade with a concert hall or a stage.
Just gotta implement like Guitar Hero or something like that, where you can also record.
Yeah.
Elite Krieger asks, have you planned to make it possible to script in the facility AI with text, like real programming, because it would be faster than clicking through all the menus?
Well, it's difficult to answer that because it's in the long run probably. Well, in the long run, we're probably going to add a way to edit the AI text based, but at the moment it's a lot easier to use external tools because until we get good enough in-game text box with proper inputting, autocomplete, and stuff like that, it's a lot easier to just use an external tool to code at the moment. There is one tool made by what was the username? Chromir, I think. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly. Available, which you can use to externally create scripts for the AI. And yeah, for the time being, this is the alternative to basically create text-based scripts for the AI. But for in-game, there is not going to be a quick solution to make it codeable. I mean, we could add a very, very cheap text editor quite fast, but I think in the current version, it would make it even more confusing because you would have to explain all the commands. You would have to create a proper layout, proper editing tools, things you would expect from a regular text editor. And currently, it's just faster to rely on an external tool.
Yeah, so to summarize, like the framework Unity we're using doesn't really have a good tools to create like that kind of editor. So we're sticking with what we have right now, where you can use the external tool by the community, which basically does what you want. But it's something that we'll be looking at in the future to add directly in the game. Then the next question is, have you come up with a name for the phase after Infinity phase? And yes, I think we can spot it so far. The phase afterwards.
Depends on what you're going to say, not that it spoilers too much.
All right. say yes,
Are you referring to the military 16 phase?
Yes. Let's just say we have something in mind. I'll leave it at that. To not spoil too much.
I mean, it's extremely clear what it's going to be. So that's something we've definitely not just theorized about, but actually written down. So that's planned. So maturity 16 to 20 is planned. But yeah, not going to say much about it.
Let's not say too much. All right.
The only thing I'm going to say is the ending cinematic after the final boss is going to give basically not just a spoiler, but just straight away is going to tell you what's going to come right after.
All right. Gotta keep some mystery, right?
Yeah.
Then we have two more questions by Gizmo, who asks, were you at a secret tier 11 machine made from 12 tier 10 machines of some kind and exotic producers?
Has someone spoiled the recipe for the mass fabricator? Just kidding.
Then the other question is, Matt, where's the video that showed the lore after the death of Cubos?
Video short lore, isn't it on YouTube? To check perfect tower ending. Yeah, someone uploaded it on YouTube.
Then maybe you can post it in AMA chat.
Yep. Just checking if it's the right video. Yep. There it is.
All right, I'm just reading the chat and yeah, people referring to spoiler or kind of joke that I made long ago, or not that long ago, a month ago, where it said after ND there is Valhalla. So yeah, that's not the actual name of the phase. I guess that's more a suggestion as a question. Tick said Minesweeper Arcade. Yes, it would be a possibility as a game if the arcade will stay in the form that it is. That's all I'm gonna say at the moment. Potato Master asks, do you plan to hire anyone in your company? Art, music, potato leadership? Let's put it short. In the future, yes. At the moment, we don't have the funds to hire someone. Then we have another question. Perfecto for UN. There will never be a third part because after 2 there is the pre-sequel. There's
Perfecto
2.5.
Perfecto 2 episode 1.
Yeah, so there's a lot of games before Perfecto 3. The real ATI as tier 16 or more, I guess we just confirmed it anyways. Yes, tier 16 to 20 is planned.
Yep.
Okay, and then I see there's a few more questions. We're basically at the end of the questions that we took, but Xenos just wrote. Xenos, do you have any specific questions regarding that, or is it just in general? Okay, so it's basically when our leaderboards coming back is the last question we have. Leaderboards are the main issue with leaderboards is that we're currently experiencing some server issues that came from the safe games, and basically there we have tons of people playing right now, more than we expected, and that kind of produced some issues with our database, which I'm working on to resolve and change the system behind it basically. And if that works out fine and everything works as expected, next thing would be to bring back leaderboards. And the only issue with that is that we also got to make sure that it's in a way where we're not going to overload our server. So it's most likely going to be like a daily update thing where it where procedurally like either updates your score on the server or it takes the score from your save games and then fills the leaderboard once a day, so that there cannot be any performance issues by updating it too often, which was the problem at first, which is especially going to be a problem if we just activate it now the way it is right now. So I hope that answers that. And I think we're at least 30 minutes over the time that we wanted to do. So I guess we'll end here. If you like this format and if you liked asking us questions and you think we should do this more often, let us know. Tell us what you liked, what we maybe can improve, if you like the format. And well, thank you all for coming. We really didn't expect people to show up. We thought it would be like a small group of maybe like 10 people. So thank you all for coming and for asking such great questions. Matt, anything you want to add? Anything you want to say? Any last words for today?
Well, nope. I don't have a great words to say. So basically, I can just summarize you. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for asking questions, and thank you all for enjoying the game.
All right, and if you haven't seen it, go on Daniel Sain's YouTube channel and check the podcast that we did the other day where he invited us. And just go on YouTube, write Daniel Sain Incremental Podcast, and you will find it. All right. Then thank you all and see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.